I don't know about you guys, but I love conspiracy theories. Now, I don't believe in all of them, but they are fun to at least entertain. And one theory that I've heard before is that we, humans, are actually aliens. I know, it sounds insane, but there's actually a couple of pretty good arguments for it. And today, we're gonna look into what those arguments actually are.
Every single species on this planet has spent millions of years adapting to Earth. Fish developed gills to breathe underwater. Birds evolved hollow bones to fly. Polar bears grew thick fur to survive the Arctic. And then there's us. We burn in our own sunlight. Our spines are falling apart. We give birth in a process so violent it kills us more than any other mammal on the planet. And we're the only species that looked around at the world it evolved in and thought, something's off. What if the reason we don't fit on Earth is because we're not from here? Let's start with your skin. You walk outside on a clear day. Give it 15 minutes, your skin starts to burn. You turn red, you blister, you peel, and no other species on Earth has this problem.
Well, what I will say about that, and again, I love conspiracy theories, so I just want to believe because it's fun. Like, how crazy would it be if we actually found out that we are aliens from, let's say, Mars, and Mars was a dying planet, so as a species, we had to move to Earth. As far as the skin burning argument goes, I think that the counterpoint to that is that when we were Homo sapiens, we had body hair, more like monkeys, and that covered our skin. But I mean, I want to say that other animals would get sunburnt too. Like if you shaved a dog, I think it would get sunburnt, but because it has hair, it doesn't. And we evolved to lose our hair. I'm not really sure why we did that though.
Not at this scale. Lizards sit in direct sunlight for hours. Dogs, cats, horses, elephants,
they have
they
hair
spend their
though, bro.
entire lives under the same sun and handle it
scales.
just fine. Their fur, their scales, their pigmentation, all perfectly calibrated for our star. Ours isn't. We literally had to invent a chemical paste and rub it on ourselves just to go outside safely.
Another conspiracy theory, sunscreen's bad for you. Yep, look it up. Just saying. When sunscreen came out in like the 70s? Actually, I don't know when, but there's a strong correlation between when sunscreen came out and when skin cancer went up. Just saying. Another little conspiracy theory there. Just saying. But I mean, he does bring up a good point, I guess. Like, why? Well, we are the only animal that cannot be outside for too long without getting cooked. That is if you're very white like me. I mean, I'm speaking from personal experience. That's not how everybody is.
Think about that for a second. We invented sunscreen because our own sun is trying to kill us. Now, look at your back. 80% of humans will experience chronic back pain at some point in their lives.
Yeah.
When 4 out of 5 members of your species share the same structural problem. You stop blaming the individual and start looking at the blueprint.
Okay, again, I love conspiracy theories. I really wish I could believe all of this. However, the way that humans have evolved technologically is that almost every human, at least in America, sits way more than they're supposed to. But back in our gathering and hunting days, there wasn't that much sitting going on. It was a lot of walking, a lot of running, a lot of hunting. A lot of manual labor is way healthier for you than sitting in a chair like hunched over and on your phone all day long or on your computer or whatever it may be. Especially like growing up, because growing up, think about it, you're in school for what, 8 or 9 hours a day? Sitting in a chair? That is not healthy. As a society, we've been convinced that the healthy thing to do is go and sit in a room inside, a lot of times without even windows, and that's the good thing to do. Don't hate me, don't hate the messenger. But no wonder everyone has chronic back pain these days, huh?
Our spines are essentially a horizontal bridge that evolution tried to stand upright. The discs between our vertebrae compress under gravity in ways they were never meant to handle. Other bipedal animals like kangaroos and ostriches don't have this
What about
issue.
monkeys?
Their bodies were built from the ground up for standing. Ours were retrofitted badly. Then there's childbirth. This one's rough. Human childbirth is the most dangerous birth process of any mammal on the planet. Our babies' heads are so big they barely fit through the birth canal. Before modern medicine, giving birth was one of the leading causes of death for women throughout all of human history. No other species routinely dies trying to deliver healthy offspring. That's just us. A horse gives birth in about 30 minutes. The foal stands up and walks within the hour. A human baby can't even hold up its own head for months. We show up completely useless, dependent on others for years, more helpless than any other animal that has ever existed on this planet. And then there are allergies.
I have a couple things to say about the whole baby situation. One, I find it incredibly bizarre as well that humans cannot survive as babies for like years and years and years. There's no other animal that is like that. Like, for example, when a horse gets born, it's walking in what 30 minutes, an hour? Then that's normal for almost any animal. I know, like, I don't know, cats or dogs or whatever, when they get born, they can't see, but like at least they can like move around. And then it also only takes them like a week, 2 weeks before they're like, they can see and they're cognizant of things. But like human babies, it takes them like a year before they can even say goo goo gaga. And then for a human to actually survive on its own in the wild, I would imagine that would take like 8 years. I mean, I don't know. Like if you're training from a baby to be able to survive in the wild, I guess you could say like 6 years maybe, but like that is so, I don't know any other animal that would take that long to be able to survive on its own. But I think that has to do with like how advanced humans are to where we're able to care for our baby for so long that maybe over time we've slowed down the development of babies because we have the resources to. And I don't know if this is true. It's also maybe TMI. I don't know, but I heard, and I'm no expert, so this is like really out of left field for me, but I heard that women giving birth, it's actually bad for them to give birth laying on their back, which is like how they do it in the hospital. But most animals in the wild will just like plop it out. You know what I'm saying? And throughout history, I think ladies used to just like squat like they were taking a dookie and then just like in like gravity like flush it out of them. I don't know. That's not my specialty. I'm not a birthing expert.
Immune system has one animal that has ever existed on this planet. And then there are allergies. Your immune system has one job: protect you. But in humans, this system regularly goes to war against things that are completely harmless: pollen, peanuts, dust, cat hair, shellfish. About 30% of the global population has allergies. Your own defense system is attacking the air you breathe and the food you eat. Either evolution made a serious mistake, or your body is calibrated for somewhere else entirely. But the strangest part isn't physical. It's in your head. No other animal on Earth knows it's going to die. Dogs don't lie awake wondering what happens after death. Dolphins don't have existential crises. Elephants don't build religions to cope with the terror of mortality. But we do. All of us. We are the only species walking around with the full awareness that one day we'll stop existing. And
that's two things they touched on. Crazy quick transition. I didn't even really catch on to it. First though, allergies. This is another conspiracy theory, and I don't want to get canceled because I know people get canceled just for saying conspiracy theories, but I'll put it this way. To my knowledge, and I advise everybody, if you disagree with me or like are curious, look it up yourself because I could 100% be wrong, but I'm pretty sure that in the last like 30-ish years, the amount of allergies in the world has skyrocketed. Like peanuts, no one used to be allergic to peanuts. That wasn't a thing back in the day. Now, they don't even serve peanuts on airplanes because so many people are allergic to them. And that's common with not just allergies, but a whole lot of medical problems. Here comes the tinfoil hat and conspiracy theory-atorial side of me that I don't know if I believe. I'm just saying. I didn't come up with it. I've heard it somewhere, and now I'm messaging it this way. I've heard that it could be because of a lot of the foods that we eat, given that a lot of our crops are sprayed with all these pesticides. I've heard that because our diet has transitioned into many processed foods, like cereal, for example, or all these candy bars or whatever it may be, that is terrible for us. And I don't want to get too into it because it's a sensitive topic for some, but let's just say some medical treatments as a baby may cause allergies. I didn't say it. All right, I said it. But yeah. Look, I think that there's way better arguments for us to be of being aliens than having allergies and being burnt to the sun. So I hope that he gets into them. Again, I love conspiracy theories. I've heard some theories about us being aliens before, and it hasn't been any of these. As far as us thinking about death, that's, I think, us just being cognizant of the future. There's a lot of animals that are not very cognizant of, like, they're not very proactive, and so they're like unable to think long term. But I think animals are scared of death. Like when they get injured, you know, they get frightened and whatever. So they're scared of dying, but they might not think about the idea of it.
Instead of just dealing with it, we've spent our entire history trying to solve it. We build temples, we write philosophies, we create entire civilizations organized around the question of what happens when we die. Why would evolution do this to us? Seriously, what survival advantage does existential dread provide? For most of human history, this awareness has driven people to despair, to madness, to war. It feels like a feature you'd find in a species that's out of place, conscious enough to sense something is wrong, but unable to figure out what. And then there's the one that's hardest to explain away. Every species on this planet exists in some kind of balance with its ecosystem. Predators keep prey in check. Prey keeps plant life in check. Decomposers recycle nutrients back into the soil. It's a closed loop. Everybody plays their part, except us. We clear-cut forests, we poison rivers, we pump the atmosphere full of gases that heat the planet. We've driven thousands of species to extinction, and we're not even close to slowing down. We're not participating in Earth's ecosystem. We're taking it apart. And if you think—
Okay, you can argue that, like today, but for the 20,000 years or whatever that humans have been, probably more than that, for the thousands and thousands of years that humans have been alive, it hasn't been that way. We weren't polluting like we have been in the last 100 years. It's not like we just spawned on Earth and had Ferraris and trains. We developed that over time. So again, I don't agree with that argument of us being aliens. We just were able to develop that.
Think about it. That's exactly what you'd expect from an invasive species. Something dropped onto a planet it wasn't built for. It doesn't know the rules because the rules weren't written for it. So if we really don't belong here, where did we come from? In 1973, Francis Crick published a paper that should have shaken the scientific world. He won the Nobel Prize in 1962 for figuring out how the molecule that carries all of life's instructions actually works. He's one of the most important scientists who ever lived. And in that 1973 paper, written with chemist Leslie Orgel, he proposed something wild. He called it directed panspermia, the idea that life on Earth didn't start here, that it was deliberately seeded by an intelligent civilization from somewhere else in the galaxy.
See, that I can get behind, but let's see why he says that that's the case.
The man who decoded DNA looked at the story of life on Earth and said, I don't think this adds up. And honestly, the evidence backing him up is hard to dismiss. Life showed up on Earth roughly 3.8 billion years ago. The planet itself is only about 4.5 billion years old. That means complex organic chemistry appeared just 700 million years after Earth formed. In geological time, that's basically overnight. The planet was still getting hammered by asteroids, still cooling from a molten hellscape of rock and toxic gas. And somehow, life popped up almost the second conditions allowed it. Biologists have always found that timing suspicious. Then there's the Murchison meteorite. In 1969, a rock from space crashed into southeastern Australia. When scientists cracked it open, they found over 90 different amino acids inside, the building blocks of life. And some of those amino acids are the exact same ones found in every living thing on Earth. Organic chemistry, just riding through space on a rock. And here's the thing, we know life can actually survive out there. Tardigrades, those microscopic little guys that look like 8-legged gummy bears, have been exposed to the vacuum of space, to cosmic radiation, to temperatures near absolute zero, and they made it. In 2019, an Israeli spacecraft carrying tardigrades crashed on the moon. Scientists think some of them might still be viable up there, just sitting on the lunar surface, waiting. Life doesn't just exist on Earth. It can hitch a ride between worlds. In 2013, ecologist Dr. Ellis Silver published a book called Humans Are Not From Earth, pulling together all the physiological evidence that we're poorly adapted to this planet. The sunburn, the back pain, the allergies, the dangerous childbirth, even our circadian rhythm being slightly off from a 24-hour cycle. He argued these weren't just quirks of evolution. They were signs we came from somewhere else. But here's where it gets complicated, because mainstream biology actually has a pretty good answer for almost all of it. It's called evolutionary mismatch. And honestly, it might be even more interesting than the alien theory. Back pain. We only started walking upright about 6 million years ago. Sounds ancient, right? But evolution moves slow. Really slow. Our spines haven't had enough generations to fully figure out this whole standing thing. We're basically walking around in a prototype that never got its final update. Sunburn. We lost our body hair. Best theory is thermoregulation. When our ancestors moved from forests onto open savannas, they needed to cool down while running for hours under the African sun. Sweat works way better on bare skin than through fur. So we traded our protective coat for the ability to outrun literally every other animal on the planet. The sunburn is just the price we pay. Childbirth. Our brains got bigger faster than our birth canals could keep up. Scientists call it the obstetric dilemma. Evolution was trying to make us smarter and keep us upright at the same time, and the pelvis basically got caught in the middle. It's messy, it's dangerous, but it makes sense. Even the environmental destruction thing has a rational explanation. We evolved in small groups on the savannah where resources felt endless compared to how few of us there were. Our brains are wired for short—
All right, let me just tell you something, okay? If you want to have your mind blown a little bit, bit, okay? I'm not the best at this whole aliens thing, so there's I'd recommend you look into it on your own. However, one thing, look up Bob Lazar, okay, and watch a podcast with Bob Lazar. That does his whole thing. It doesn't really have to do with us being aliens, but aliens being present and with us on Earth. I'm not saying I believe it. I'm just saying it's fun to think about, okay? Number 2, recently they discovered that there's actually way more builds underneath the pyramids than they ever thought. And I'm talking about like very intricate coil systems and labyrinths and like underneath the pyramids, layers of it. I'm not sure exactly what it's called or exactly what it is, but they discovered that it is there. And that would mean that, first of all, the Egyptians had way more technology than we could have ever imagined, but also just brings in the theory that perhaps those ancient civilizations got so advanced and left Earth and maybe are now coming back. And that's what these like UFO things that we're seeing now actually are. Or that aliens built the pyramids. And that is why in so many old and ancient texts, there are, they just speak about beings coming down from the sky. It's very common in ancient texts for that to be a thing. Fun, man. It's fun. It's fun to think about this stuff. Again, I don't know what I believe. So even though I'm saying all this stuff, I'm not saying I believe in aliens. I believe in all this stuff going on and I believe it all, but it's a fun little what if question. Oh, regarding the whole pyramid thing though, the people who own the pyramids or run the pyramids or whatever, I don't know who it actually is, like the government of Egypt, I suppose, they are not allowing archaeologists to go down there to see what it is because they don't want to destroy anything about the pyramids, which I understand. You know, you don't want to destroy any sort of important architecture that is like what makes your country famous, you know? But at the same time, personally, selfishly, I want the answers. I want to know what is under the pyramids. It might have a lot of answers and literally change the entire outlook of humanity and our entire understanding of who we are as a people. So selfishly, I would love for some archaeologists to go down there and see what's going on, because they might discover some crazy technology or things that we had no idea existed.
Term survival, not managing an entire planet's ecosystem. We're not alien invaders. We're just an animal that got way too powerful, way too fast for its own wiring to handle. So that settles it, right? Well, not quite, because even after all those explanations, there's one thing evolutionary biology still can't fully account for: the speed. No species in the 4 billion year history of life on Earth has ever done what we did.
True, and there's actually a big gap between what fossils we have found and like monkeys. So a lot of people say, like, there's common knowledge or it's common thought for us to think that we developed from monkeys because of how similar we are to them. However, as far as all the fossils that archaeologists have discovered, there's actually a huge gap between the most modern monkey and the most ancient human. And like, who knows what happened in that gap or how that started at all. Like, what if I'm just saying, what if aliens came down, took monkeys and like injected them with different DNA and then bang, they made human babies. And that's why there was such a big gap, because aliens came down and said, you know what, we're gonna totally advance the society and we're doing it with the monkeys.
Humans have been around for roughly 50 million years. They're smart. They have complex social lives. They communicate. And in all that time, they have never built a single tool. Not one. Chimpanzees figure—
They don't have hands or thumbs. I'm not saying that they would without it, but I mean, come on, what are they supposed to do? They also live in the ocean. All they have is rocks. If humans lived in the ocean, we would not be able to build anything.
4 million years ago. They have not filed a single upgrade since. And then there's us. We went from sharpened rocks to nuclear weapons in about 2 million years. From fire to the International Space Station. From cave paintings to artificial intelligence. From banging flint together to landing robots on Mars. 200 years ago, we didn't have railroads. 125 years ago, airplanes didn't exist. 75 years ago, we hadn't been to space. 35 years ago, there was no internet.
Yeah, he's actually making a really good point here, which really scares me. In the beginning, he said it took us 2 million years to get to where we are. If you rewind just 100 years, the last like 100 years of technological improvement for humanity is it's unfathomable, really, like the trajectory that we're going at. Like the fact that I can just pick up my phone and FaceTime my grandparents who live across the world is insane, to the point where if I had this iPhone and went back 100 years and showed somebody from back then, they would think that that phone is like a divine, godly thing. And they might praise it and like bow to it and be like, oh my God, this thing is like, this is made from God. You know what I'm saying? But it's not, it's made from us, which makes me think like in 100 years from now, in 200 years from now, in 1,000 years from now, like, whoa, where are we going to be? I personally think that we're gonna like fully combine with technology, because that is the optimum way to go. It's unfortunate and I don't love the idea of that. But for example, if someone says, you know, if doctors come out with a completely robotic back that 100% guarantees you'll never have back pain and you're gonna have the strongest back ever, why, who would not do that, right? Like, of course you're gonna do that. But eventually that's gonna turn into your whole body. And the next thing you know, we're all like fully robots. Some people even say like we already are robots because we carry phones around with us wherever we go. So although we're not directly like connected to our phone, the fact that we have it in our pocket at all time is pretty robotic of us in a sense.
Nothing in the entire history of life on this planet has ever accelerated like that. Nothing even comes close. And scientists still can't agree on why. Some think it was language. Some think it was cooking, which gave us more calories and let our brains get bigger. Some point to a mutation in a gene called FOXP2 that may have unlocked complex speech. Others say it was our ability to teach, to stack knowledge across generations so each one picked up where the last left off. All of those probably played a role, but none of them fully explain the sheer speed of it. Every other intelligent species on Earth took tens of millions of years to develop gradually. We went from prey animal to running the entire planet in what amounts to a geological blink. Crick couldn't explain it, Silver couldn't explain it, and modern evolutionary biology can explain pieces of it, but not the whole thing. Not yet. The most honest answer science has right now is we don't fully know. We've got pieces, we don't have the full picture, and that's what keeps the question alive. Look, it's probably not true that we're aliens. The evolutionary evidence is strong. Mismatch theory handles most of the weird stuff about our bodies. We're almost certainly a product of this planet, shaped by the same forces that shaped everything else here. But almost certainly is not definitely. And when real scientists, including one of the founders of modern genetics, look at the evidence and say, something here doesn't quite add up. That's not conspiracy talk. That's just science doing what science does, asking the uncomfortable questions and being honest when the answers don't come out clean. It's the same curiosity that made us look up at the stars in the first place, the same restlessness that made us build rockets and telescopes and send little robots to other planets just to see what's there. Maybe that restlessness isn't a flaw. Maybe it's a clue, because if we are from here, then we're the strangest thing this planet has ever produced, a species that burns in its own sunlight, breaks under its own gravity, and can't stop looking at the sky wondering where it really came from. And if we're not from here, then we've been trying to find our way home for 200,000 years.
The last thing I'll say is that I don't think anyone has the answers. I don't think anything that we're taught is true, and I don't think I know either. But there's so much history in our species that we don't know, and I don't think we will ever know. So I'm open to any idea as long as like it logistically makes sense. And if you want to have your mind blown, this is the podcast I was referencing. Bob Lazar on Rogan, 2479. Literally insane. Yeah, if you have a couple hours, I'd recommend giving that a listen because it'll blow your mind, I promise. Anyway, have a good one, guys.